Often, when buying new cars, people pay attention to several factors, the first of which is, of course, the price, appearance and technical characteristics. Marketers are well aware of this, and lately we have been seeing more and more engines that pleasantly surprise us on paper. With its torque, horsepower, and with all this, also fuel consumption. But you won't be able to find out the resource of the power unit, especially if it's completely new, until you buy a car yourself. Moreover, they do this under the assurances of the seller that the machine will pass the warranty period without problems. Although in this list there will be engines that could not even pass the warranty without serious damage. First, I put Volkswagen Group engines under the FSI marking in this place. These are the power units of cars created using innovative technologies in which fuel is injected directly into the combustion chamber. Such a system has several positive advantages over MPI multiport fuel injection, on the basis of which our hero was created. Fuel economy and power gain. Everything marketers love. But in fact, we got a very capricious fuel system, which in most cases, moreover, is very afraid of frost. I think it's not worth talking about bad fuel at all. Also, these engines were seen in the oil ZOR, the probability of occurrence of rings is high. Plus, the loss of this most vaunted power. The reason is the formation of soot on the valves due to the direct injection itself. The incoming fuel does not clean the valve from soot, and it begins to block the channels. And now, using the example of the Volkswagen Passat in the B6 body, where the versions of the MPI and FSI engines met, let's see how much the power and fuel consumption differ. And so, a simple and reliable engine with MPI distributed fuel injection, on which, by the way, you can even install HBO without any problems, consumes 10.7 liters in the city. In the combined cycle, 7.7 is obtained. In fact, the same unit, only with the capricious FSI system, consumes 10 liters in the city, which is as much as 700 grams less and 7.5 liters in the combined cycle, which is only 200 grams less. Well, on the highway there is no difference in consumption at all. Now about the power, which, as I said, over time, the FSI system itself can take away from you. 102L with. For the version with MPI and 115 for FSI. That is, in fact, you have 13 horses more and 200 grams of fuel less. But there are many more possible problems. However, many motorists still defend this type of engine. Although even Volkswagen itself admitted its mistake. On the B6, this motor lasted only 3 years. Motors labeled FSI, and these are 1.4, 1.6, 2.0, 3.2, and probably the most reliable of them 3.6 liters were installed on almost all cars that are part of the VAG group. And it's not the best buy. Well, we move on. When Mitsubishi introduced GDI direct injection gasoline engines, European manufacturers jumped at the technical concept. Renault was the first to develop an engine with the same fuel delivery system in 1999. It was called 2.0 IDE. First, the motor was installed on the first-generation Megane, then on the Lagoon 2. It is the latest model that is famous for its low reliability. But if the car is equipped with a motor without direct injection, it will not cause serious problems to the owner. The headache will be the 2.016V IDE units, which were installed on cars in 2001 to 2003. They have the same volume as the version without direct fuel injection, and differ slightly in power. Although the IDE engine is rare, it was so bad that even the manufacturer admitted it. As a result, Renault abandoned direct injection technology for years to come. This happened as a result of numerous failures. The motor had big problems with the electronics. Experts say that it is impossible to find a worse version of this model than the 2.0 IDE. Two more French brands simply could not miss this list. This is, of course, Peugeot and Citroën. The 1.6 VTI petrol engines produced until 2008 were highly regarded for their good dynamics in small cars and for their reliability in large ones. They worked great on gas. But despite the VTI designation, the new motor has nothing to do with reliability. It was put on many models of the concern. Among them are Peugeot 207, 308, 3008, 5008 Citroën C3, DS3, C4 Picasso and C5, as well as mini hatch. Early in production, the engine suffered from many faults. And even despite the modernization, a huge train of problems stretches behind the engine. Among them, a problematic timing drive is noted, oil channels quickly coke and an oil burn begins, a delicate and expensive phase control system does not tolerate oil starvation, an oil pump with pressure control has a very low resource, often the electromagnetic clutch of the water pump drive fails here. The next power unit was installed on only one model, and this is the second generation Ford Mondeo. The 1.8 engine is quite reliable if it is timely and properly serviced. It is even possible to install gas by choosing the appropriate equipment. But unfortunately, it can be easily confused with another engine with the same displacement, at the end with the prefix SI. It is equipped with direct gasoline injection and has 130 horses. The motor was produced in 2003 to 2007 at the same time as the relatively successful 1.8-liter unit without direct injection. Although there are not as many cars with this engine as our previous heroes, it is possible to buy it by mistake and then regret it too much. Due to the presence of a direct injection system, this engine is demanding on fuel quality. For the same reason, the intake valves quickly overgrow with soot and compression drops, and the filter in the tank clogs from low-quality gasoline and the fuel pump fails. In general, it is best to avoid it. How is this list without TSI or TFSI engines? These power units came out quite unsuccessful. Here is a weak chain, which in some cases could stretch up to 50,000 kilometers, and the oil burner is simply on a catastrophic scale. By 100,000 kilometers, they became real oil gluttons. The culprit was the unsuccessful design of the pistons, which had too thin rings. Pistons, introduced since mid-2011, have virtually eliminated the drawback. Also, the chain can jump after parking in gear due to a weak tensioner, and increased oil consumption leads to coking and floating engine speeds. And this is far from all the troubles, but in fairness, it's worth saying that a car with such an engine really has excellent driving performance, both in terms of fuel economy and dynamics. Well, the third generation TSI has already got rid of most of the above problems. But until 2012, it is better to avoid a car with a TSI or TFSI prefix. Even a 15-year-old Forester or Impreza can reliably cover hundreds of thousands of miles. However, this does not apply to all motors. The Boxer 2.5 Turbo was blacklisted. The engine has 16 valves, aluminum head, and cylinder block. Even the naturally aspirated version is forced to face burnout of the gasket under the head of the block. The thin walls of the cylinders are affected, as a result of an artificial increase in a 2-liter block. Turbo owners, if they don't want to go back to the problem, will have to prepare twice as much to purchase a reinforced tuning gasket and head bolts. Sometimes fans of the 2.5 Turbo have to spend even more, to replace the timing drive and pistons, which tend to crack between the rings. Tuning companies offer strong forged pistons, devoid of vulnerability. New pistons will help to cope with excessive oil consumption, which also happens. There are also minor malfunctions, an exhaust gas recirculation valve and lambda probes. In 2007 to 2008, in addition to everything, a batch of unsuccessful turbo engines also hit the market. Well, the last on our list were as many as 3 engines that were installed on Alfa Romeo, Fiat, and Opel. Modifications 2.0 and 2.2 JTS are 2 completely different families of engines, but they have many common features. Both receive direct fuel injection and a large list of defects. The 2.0 JTS uses a belt to drive the timing, while the 2.2 uses a chain. The 2.0 is a further development of the TS engine used since 1995. The prototype was already known from the dark side. It had short-lived liners, variable valve timing and shaft drive. The belt was recommended to be changed together with the phase regulator every 60,000 kilometers. The 2.0 JTS uses technology from the 2.0 TS engine, but instead of 2 spark plugs per cylinder, it received direct fuel injection. This has led to new problems. Soot began to form on the valves. It even came to the breaking of the valve disc. There is also the problem of excessive burning of engine oil, and repairs are unprofitable given the not too high cost of the car. The 2.2 JTS is a thoroughly redesigned GM design. Here, too, it is not without problems. Fuel gets into the oil, resulting in a lack of lubrication. The camshafts come first. Mechanics recommend changing the oil more often, every 8,000 kilometers, but that's not all. The 2.2 engine has a short-lived timing chain that is expensive to replace. Similar ailments are observed in the 2.2 Opel Vectra with direct injection, but in the Fiat Croma 2.2 it is more reliable. Well, it will be very interesting to know if you agree with this list, and that's all for me. Thank you all for your attention. I will be very grateful if you subscribe to the channel. See you soon.